We call our December 2nd, 2021 Bowling Green, Warren County Planning Commission into order. And Ms. Ramsey, if you would call the roll, please.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Drain?
Ma'am.
Commissioner Gay? Commissioner Graham?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks? Commissioner Unseld?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale? Commissioner Volkert? Chair Warren?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Monica. You have the minutes of our November 18th meeting in your packet. Are there any questions of that meeting? Hearing none, I would call for a motion and a second. Thank you.
Commissioner Volkert? Commissioner Drain? Commissioner Gay?
Ma'am.
Commissioner Graham?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale?
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Warren?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Mr. Warren, please order that the record include all relevant statutory and regulatory provisions, the Commission's entire file for each the application on the docket, and the qualifications for each staff witness. Finally, I request that you administer the oath to each of those witnesses.
Y'all swear to tell the truth? Yes, sir. Thank you very much. You have your subdivision and site development plans in your packet. Are there any questions? Commissioners? Then they will stand as they were sent in the packet. I think we have no old business for tonight. Is that right, Ben? All right, thank you very much. We enter into our first public hearing tonight. Billy J. Bell and Sarah Longhurst have filed an application to rezone tracts of land containing approximately 3.36 acres located 0 Richpond-Rockfield Road, approximately 2.6 mile from Cambridge Circle, from Ag to RE residential estate with the general development plan, and our 8 board members will vote on that. So here we go. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, sir. We had a pre-application conference on November 2nd for multiple tracks here on Richpond-Rockfield Road. Actually, if we go to the next map, you can, well, it's small on here, but essentially there are currently 2 full tracks that you can see on the aerial. And this is a tract by itself also, and then this back corner is part of a 4th tract. So the proposal this evening is to reconfigure the current lot configuration for a total of 3 lots. It's just that based on the current zoning, that there was really no way to shuffle the lot lines around without coming before you all and requesting a zone change in order to achieve the ultimate goal that is proposed, which is this lot configuration here. So the future land use is low density, and this description for this future land use designation is on page 2 for your reference at the top. And if we look at the land use map, you'll see that the surrounding area is a mix of single family and agricultural uses, with also some vacant tracts in the vicinity. As you get further north out towards Russellville Road, you also pick up some commercial and public institutional uses. If we look at the development plan conditions, those are on page 3. Number 1 deals with access. 2 outlines a minimum home size of 2,100 square feet. 3 requires that new homes constructed be oriented to face 242 Richpond-Rockfield Road. 4 requires a minimum of a 2-car attached garage. 5 requires a minimum building setback from the front property line of 50 feet. 6 looks at on-site septic systems. 7 outlines permitted building materials. 8 addresses preservation of some of the existing trees on the property. If we jump back to the aerial, you can see those. And then number 9 looks at sinkholes. We evaluated 14 items from the comprehensive plan. 8 of those items are in compliance. There are 6 for the Planning Commission to determine as far as compliance goes, and those are LU 1.1.3, which look at compatibility, LU 2, which looks at quality of development and character of the area, and then on the back page, LU 252 and HN 1.3, which look at compatibility of infill development and maintaining the existing character and pattern of development. And then last, HN 2.1 and HN 4, which look at location of the proposed housing type and whether or not that is suitable, and housing options that may be available in the area. So in summary, again, there are currently three entire tracks that currently exist with a portion of one tract back here to the rear. The applicants are looking to reconfigure the properties. The number of lots would not increase, but again, in order to achieve this proposed lot configuration, the rezoning was required before that could happen. So that's what brings us here this evening, and on page 1 we have our points to consider. Number 1 looks at the future land use map. The proposal does comply with the future land use map. Number 2, the proposal complies with the majority of the review criteria for site design and a majority of the site characteristics review criteria and meets the minimum requirements in the ordinance. And last, the Planning Commission should determine compatibility. I believe that is all for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rachel. Commissioners, are there any questions for this proposal?
So I'll be brief. 7, I think, indicates 100% brick, stone, hardy board, or other engineered wood siding, and so I appreciate that from staff and from the applicant. Do we have a minimum square footage for this property?
Yes, that's in number 2, 2,100 square feet.
Got it. All right, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Tim. Any other questions for Rachel? Hearing none, is the applicants here? Would you all like to add anything other than our staff report? All right, thank you very much. Is there any opposition to this request tonight? Hearing none, we call for a motion for this amendment.
Make a motion to approve the proposed zoning map amendment together with an condition upon the general development plan, docket number 2021-66Z County. Based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing, the proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with the objectives and action items presented in the staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further, I request that this motion includes a summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Second. Commissioner Graham?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld? Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Vitale? Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Volkert? Commissioner Drain?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Gay?
Ma'am.
Chair Warren?
Yes, ma'am. The recommendation goes to the Warren County Fiscal Court. Our second item tonight is Matt Fuqua and Wayne and Elva Overholt, the owners, are proposing to zone .8887 acres located 0 Enterprise Court from highway business and light industrial to RM4 multifamily residential in order to develop the property with a maximum of 24 multifamily residential units. Mr. Jones?
Chair Warren, we had a pre-app on November 4th for the property you see here outlined in yellow. You will note that it is pretty well right next adjacent to the property that came before rezoning. I think it was last month or 2 months ago. The existing zoning is highway business and light industrial. It's split zoned. The existing land use is vacant, and the future land use is mostly high-density residential with a small sliver of commercial in there as well. As Chair Warren mentioned, it is .8887 plus minus acres at 0 Enterprise Court in order to develop the property with a max of 24 multifamily residential units with a proposed density of 27.01 dwelling units per acre. If you'll flip over to the next page, you'll see the considerations for the 2 future land use map categories I mentioned. Looking down at the site characteristics review, this was mentioned in the last staff report for the nearby or adjacent property, but natural features that sinkholes are known to exist in the vicinity and that a cave may also be present in the vicinity of the proposed development. It's a little further from where we had it designated on our GIS map, but that is something to note. Site design and compatibility review, moving down there under surrounding density. The existing density for the current existing multifamily developments on Enterprise Court is 19.8 dwelling units per acre and 20 dwelling units per acre, with the approved density for the recent zone change at 24.45 dwelling units per acre, and this development is proposing 27.01 dwelling units per acre. Flipping over to the next page, I'll specifically kind of call out building orientation. That staff did suggest to the applicants that the building's fronting enterprise court face enterprise court. Otherwise, side or rear facing facades along the court should be screened. The applicants didn't address them in the building orientation. Did not address building orientation in the DPCs. The buildings shown on the attached preliminary development plan appear to incorporate side facades that face enterprise court, and that would be consistent with what they proposed last time as well. And then moving on down, we can look at the general development plan conditions, and we'll go through those. Number 1 has to do with utility location being underground. Number 2 limits the building height to 2 stories. Number 3 deals with exteriors, and that the exterior of all structures shall be comprised of brick, stone, cement, board, or other modern masonry materials with no plain or split face block used. And the exterior of the structures shall be uniform architecturally and by materials with lots 2-8 and 2-10 as recorded in Plat Book 39-341 and the Warren County Clerk. I believe that is in reference to what was just approved. Number 4, the development shall not exceed the 24 units. Number 5 has to do with the uniformity of parking lot lighting. Number 6 says that the property shall be managed by the same entity as lots 2-8 and 2-10. Again, reference to that previous zone change. Number 7, the development shall have a minimum of 20% open space, with a portion of the open space being utilized as a dog park, and will be developed with internal sidewalks that will have a connection to the existing sidewalk along Enterprise Court. Number 8 deals with sinkhole mitigation, and then flipping over to the next page, number 9 deals with entrances being coordinated with the City of Bowling Green Public Works. I will note that the conditions that you see before you tonight are almost identical to what was proposed and approved at that previous meeting. Looking at the Focus 2030 category review, staff identified 14 items, 6 of which comply, 8 of which are up to the Planning Commission's determination. First of those, which is LU 1.1.3, that deals with compatibility. LU 2 and LU 2.1, the Planning Commission should determine if the proposal is a high-quality development that includes improved design standards tailored to preserve the character of the area. LU 2.3.1 and TR 2.1, the proposal generally complies with, as the applicants agreed to coordinate the entrance with the City of Bowling Green. HN 1 and 1.3, the Planning Commission should determine if the proposal is compatible infill development that will maintain or improve the existing character and pattern of development within the area. And then HN 2.1 and HN 4, that the Planning Commission should determine if the location of planned development is suitable for the proposed housing type and if the development will increase the array of housing options available in the area. Flipping back to page 1 to the points to consider, we've got 4 things staff called out. Firstly, that the proposal is consistent with the flume. Secondly, that the proposed development complies with the majority of site characteristics review criteria and meets the minimum requirements of the zoning ordinance. 3, the development complies with the majority of review criteria for site design, with the exception noted regarding the building orientation I mentioned and or screening of side and rear facing facades. And lastly, that the Planning Commission should determine if the proposed development is compatible with the surrounding area. That's all I've got for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Zach. Or commissioners, any questions for Mr. Jones?
The only question I've got is on number 6, that's going to be managed by the same entity as 2.8 and 2.10, and maybe this is a question for Matt, is if I read that and if it's in the development conditions, that you can't sell off this entity, because this is going to be you can't sell off this parcel, and then someone say, well, I'm going to have somebody, I just want to make sure he understands. Okay.
And I can let them clarify, but the other DPCs called for one managing entity, so that would kind of be tying all that in, so it would be the same one for all of them.
I don't have a problem with that. I just want to make sure that they understand once it goes in the development condition.
Thank you, Christian. Any other questions for Mr. Jones? Does the applicant have anything they would like to add to Mr. Jones' presentation?
So did we get clarity on the managing
I
entity?
mean, I think you understand.
All right, very good. All right.
It was just really, it was,
Housekeeping,
as
housekeeping.
a housekeeper, I was gonna make sure he understood.
Yeah. All right. Is there any opposition to this request tonight? Hearing none, would call for a motion, please.
Motion to approve the proposed zoning map amendment together with and conditioned upon a general development plan, docket number 2021-67ZBG. Based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing, the proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan. It's demonstrated by its compliance with objective and action items presented in the staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further, I request that this motion include a summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Second. Commissioner Gay?
Ma'am.
Commissioner Graham?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale? Commissioner Volkert? Commissioner Drain?
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Warren?
Yes, ma'am. The motion is approved and the recommendation goes to the Bowling Green City Commission. Item number 3 that was on our packet has been postponed. Is there any other new business tonight, Ben? Any discussion items from the commissioners? So it's 5:46 at night. So, Don, you can go home, eat some supper. All right, we will adjourn, and our next meeting will be 2 weeks from today. Thank you all very much for being here.